Chuck was in the first graduating class of Liberty University and went immediately from there, 23 years old, and started in Pensacola, Florida, Crossroads Baptist Church. And he is now in his 34th year as pastor of that church. Chuck, in the 1980s, was the state coordinator in the state of Florida for the moral majority and worked extensively within the Republican Party. Chuck currently has a radio program. I would encourage you to go to his website. He has all kinds of information there. You can access his sermons and his radio programs. It's chuckbaldwinlive.com. And on the way down here, Chuck said it's his radio program is heard 49 different times during the day in 5 states. And I forgot how many radio stations, but in 5 different states. Writes extensively. Chuck's a columnist, syndicated columnist. I would encourage you to read, probably many of you get his columns via the internet. Go to newswithviews.com if you want to keep up with his columns. Writes, I don't know how he does it, but I see a new one at least every week. In 2000, Chuck was not a good boy, I guess, among his Republican cohorts. He decided not to support George Bush and actually left the Republican Party. In 2004, Chuck was the vice presidential candidate on the Constitution Party ticket. In 2008, he was the presidential candidate on the Constitution Party ticket and was endorsed by Ron Paul. So the man who, listen, I want to say this too real quick. Chuck Baldwin is the kind of preacher that I long for. He doesn't compromise the scriptures and preaches it whether it's popular or not, doesn't tickle ears. And he's the kind of politician that I long for too, because he understands the Constitution and he doesn't tickle ears trying to get a vote if it entails violating the Constitution. So, ladies and gentlemen, the man who should be president, Mr. Chuck Baldwin from Pensacola.
Thank you, Rick. Anytime I can stand side by side with Rick Jor, I will do it. Montana is blessed to have so many great, wonderful patriots, including Rick Jor. And he's a humble guy and doesn't ask for a lot of recognition, but I want to give him the recognition he deserves. And I think all of us appreciate what Rick has done through the years in the legislature here in this part of the country. Would you join me in applauding Rick Jor? I traveled over 30,000 miles and I visited over 30 states in the last 4 months of the campaign in 2008. I had the privilege of representing the United States Constitution on the platforms of various and sundry meetings all across this country. I've often been asked by people, why is it that the American people have rejected the message of constitutional government? And I respond by saying the American people have not rejected the message of constitutional government. The American people have not heard the message of constitutional government. The American media deliberately blocks out at the national level those who would present the message of constitutional government. Look what happened to Ron Paul last year. By the way, let me just set the record straight on that. You're looking at the only presidential candidate in 2008 that not only campaigned for, spent my own money campaigning in 3 different states for Ron Paul, Florida, Alabama, and South Carolina, went up and down those states on his behalf, speaking in front of various and sundry meetings, including in South Carolina, the state Republican gathering. And along with others who were representing their respective candidates, I had the privilege of representing Ron Paul. And not only that, but I contributed my own money, $500, to his campaign because I believed in his message. And had Ron Paul received the Republican nomination for president, I would not have won. I would not have run. I would still continue to support him. The only reason I ran in 2008 was because Ron Paul pulled out of the race, and people asked me if I would come and be the representative of the Constitution Party to represent the Constitution to the American people and to continue to try to give that voice, and I was glad to do that. And we spoke all over the country on that in that regard, and I was thrilled and humbled at the same time whenever Ron came out and publicly endorsed me for President of the United States. The problem in America today is that the media and those who represent the Constitution have either A, never learned it, or B, have rejected it and therefore have denied the American people the opportunity to understand and to support the Constitution of the United States. And I want to say right here and now that there is no problem politically in this country that could not be solved if those who stand before the American people and take the oath to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States would honor their oath. That's all we need. Let me tell you something else that everywhere I've gone and said, I've had a lot of people that have raised an eyebrow because me being a Baptist minister, you wouldn't expect me to say what I'm about to say, but I mean it with all of my heart. I would rather vote for an unbeliever who would preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States than to vote for a believer who would not preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. When I hire a plumber to come to my house, we sign a contract. The contract says, I will give you X amount of money and you will do X amount of work. I really don't care where he goes to church. I really don't care whether he claims to be a Christian or not. Now, as a minister, I'm concerned about his soul, and if I'm going to talk to him one-on-one about spiritual matters and about his relationship with the Lord, that's a different matter. But I'm not hiring him to preach to him. I'm hiring him to fix my toilets. And at the end of the day, whenever he leaves my premises, I don't really care whether he says he's a Christian or not. I want my plumbing to work. Every politician you've ever heard is a Christian. At least every 2 years. You never hear them say, vote for me, I'm an atheist. Vote for me, I hate God. Vote for me, I don't believe in Jesus. They always come to our churches every 2 years, every 4 years, depending on the race, and try to tell us how Christian they are and how much they love God and they believe the Bible. Well, I remember there in the scripture where Jesus said, let your yea be yea and your nay, nay. Which means, sir, which means, ma'am, when you take the oath of office, mean it. We are in a desperate hour. I had invitations I turned down more than I take. Just recently they wanted me to come to Chicago and I turned it down. They wanted me to go to New York and they turned it down and they asked me why. I said, well, because if anybody knows anything, where the real action is in Montana.